Hello, we are here. This is episode 6. We're going to be talking about tournaments. We do have a couple of non-Blood Bowl tournaments because I have been to a couple of gaming tournaments and some other bits and pieces. So we wanted to make sure that there was a mixture and it wasn't just Blood Bowl. But Blood Bowl is the more recent and the most relevant to what we're currently doing, given that at the time of recording, NAF Champs is a week away. So yeah, there's a lot going on recently. How many tournaments have you guys been to? Have you done a lot, or is this very new to a new scene to you guys?
It's very new to me. I've only done 2 tournaments so far.
And the first one was UKTC.
And the first one was UKTC, which was huge.
I feel like we need to qualify that with saying that Collie had never been to a tournament up until 2 weeks ago. Now she's been to 2, and I think she's going to have gone to another 15 by the end of the year at least.
At least.
It sounds like it.
She got the bug and was like, right, book them all. I'm going to every single one I can.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, have you found a pairs one in Macclesfield coming up that I'm trying to talk to someone mostly doesn't to go with me?
Not Techno.
No. He needs to watch
he's
his
not
kids.
in.
I need to have someone to watch his kids.
Oh, that's fair. Shepard says we need about 20% more Collie if we can.
I've pulled her up a little bit more. Yeah. So for me, I actually, when I was at university, I went to a lot of tournaments. Strangely enough, for RPGs. We had and we called it Nationals. I can never remember the entire name because the anagram, the anagram for it was NSWRGCC or something along those lines. We just called it Nationals. So basically, it's a bunch of universities getting together and playing a whole host of different games, and most of them were RPGs, and you would get ranked on what the DM thought how well you did, whether that was following the story, being intuitive in your role playing and things like that. So I've been to quite a few of those. It was one of my favorite things about being at university was going to those. So yeah, that side of things I know quite well. Blood Bowl, however, at this point I have actually been to quite a few Blood Bowl tournaments. My first one was a Two Drunk Flings. Oh, what did they call it? I can't even remember what they called it. I think it was
they had a tournament of their own.
Yeah, they had several, but they had one in one of their backyards, and it was NAF affiliated. You know, you got NAF rankings from going. I think it was Bumcheek Dave's Barbecue or something like that is what it was called. I can't quite remember, but that was my first Blood Bowl tournament that I went to. So that
Was there a lower limit for the alcohol consumption? Did you need to have at least 2 shots of something or pints, I guess, before you start playing? Put everyone on the field.
It's funny you say that. Actually, we got in the car and Day picked. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. Got in the car. Day pulled a can of beer and clicked it in the car. We hadn't even left the house. Hadn't even started driving, and he pulled a can of beer out. And I was like, really? Sorry.
He wasn't the one driving, right?
No. Day can't drive.
Bumcheek Bowl.
Bumcheek Bowl. That was it.
I think I remember you going to that tournament, Dizzy, and you shared the picture of you all in the car before you left. And I actually remember when I saw it, because at that point I still hadn't done anything like that since COVID. I'd been to 3 tournaments before COVID, I guess, because I had one small local one in Brighton, one I think maybe in Nottingham, and then the World Cup. But I remember sort of seeing you all in the car, and having just gone through the pandemic, I was watching the sort of seeing that moment and thinking, God, I'm so jealous of getting to go on a big car journey to a tournament and have that adventure together. I was really jealous of you. I was like, oh, and then we all got to do it together at UKTC, and it was perfect.
So good. I had such a great time at UKTC. The best best part of having us all at UKTC was I could turn around to Tree and go, Tree, go boo! And Tree would boo. Yay!
You had the in-person...
the live exclamation mark boo, right?
I did, yeah.
Do it. Oh,
I think
that's awesome.
I think that is one of the best things about, I obviously didn't go to any Blood Bowl tournaments before COVID. COVID was the first time I'd ever, really played much Blood Bowl. I played 1 or 2 games beforehand, didn't really like get too much into it until lockdown, and had a lot more free time, funnily enough. So then, like, making all of these friends online and, starting streaming and, collaborating with you guys and things like that, having that moment of actually meeting you in person and getting to, like, oh, I just did this in my game. How's your game going? And things like that. That was just, like, amazing to me. The other tournaments I've been to, there was that, but it was never on the same sort of level or of excitement that you got from what we had when we got to UKTC. It was great.
I don't think that's something that's unique just to these sorts of tournaments. So back in March time, I did a conference with work, and the thing with my the sort of area that I work in is that everybody sort of knows everybody because we all work together on lots of different things between the companies. And it was exactly the same. You had people going around going, oh my God, I haven't seen you for ages, and oh my God, and there was just reunions and meetups and everything like that. So a lot of our customers seem to think that we're always at each other's throats because we're all competitors, but that's really not true. So that level, that social level, and that excitement of just getting back out there after COVID is huge, and it is, I think it's everybody. It is so great to get back out there again. You don't realise how much you take it for granted until you lose it.
Work, yeah. I've never gotten so many hugs from coworkers before because, well, I've never had any hugs from coworkers really before, and this time they're like, "Oh my God, we're gonna have a meeting together in the same room." That's the most exciting thing in the universe.
Yeah, and then I look at you and you think, for fuck's sake, how do I trousers today?
Yeah, that was the other thing about lockdown was you only had to dress this far up, didn't you? That far down was like I can have a blanket around my legs, I can have my pajama bottoms on. Now it's like I have to wear trousers and fancy clothes. Like,
you have to be a professional.
I know.
I'd be working in my pajamas, and then all of a sudden it's like we're gonna have a meeting at 2:00. Fuck's sake.
Have they even been washed? Like.
Okay, but for real, like, when is Giraffe going to go into work in the giraffe outfit? Because that was one of the hardest.
I probably could. Well, the really sad thing, and I'm going to tell you all this is very embarrassing, but you guys are all my best friends over here, so I had a pair of jeans. I don't have that many jeans, but I had a pair of jeans, and for the first time in 2 years, I had to put it on because I had to go out into the universe and do outdoor things. And I put it on, and the zipper breaks. I was like, oh, I probably gained a lot of weight. It was not that I gained a lot of weight. It rusted. The zipper rusted from not used. I have not put on that pair of jeans for a year and a half. So that was really sad. So not because I gained a lot of weight, which is totally fine if you have put on COVID weight. Everybody's
definitely put on COVID weight, and that's why I'm not wearing my jeans.
I put on some COVID weight, and then I gave birth and lost it, so...
Okay. Well, that helps.
It is the first step in Collie's move into new diet book writing. Just have a kid, lose weight.
Yeah. They'll be fine.
Lockdown baby.
It was a 9-month bodybuilding competition.
Oh, I saw a friend of ours sent us, because Day-Day's sister also had a lockdown baby, and they sent us, a friend of ours sent us a baby grow saying, send this to your sister. And the baby grow said something along the lines of, like, I followed the lockdown rules, but my parents obviously didn't. Or something along those lines. And it's like, oh my God, that is actually perfect.
Can I just pause this? Tree, can you show us that mug again?
I certainly can. Oh, is that going to be all green?
Very nice.
Oh,
It's the mug show.
You finally got your mug after, I think it's nearly a year that you won it.
The best bit of going to UKTC, getting my free mug.
Hang on a minute, we were on the same team. Would you like to rethink that statement?
Oh, Thor has one.
Well, joint best thing, let's say.
Okay, there we go.
There were a lot of...
Honestly, being honest, it was amazing seeing all of you, but there were lots of favourite moments, but definitely one of my favourite moments was being next to Cauliflower when she won her first tournament. That was just the first game.
Oh my God,
that was so good.
Oh, I remember that.
Everyone was gathered around, weren't they?
Because we'd taken so long, so everyone else had finished, because we actually went into lunchtime. Because my friend, lovely guy, I'd play him again, but he was a talker. He was definitely a talker. And I mean, I don't know how he can make, like, what was that on the pitch at the end? About 5 players take so long to play. Lovely guy, they'll play him again. Great time. And I was so concentrated so much on this game. All of a sudden, I stood up, turned around, and there was about 10 people all around me watching.
That's the both exciting and pressureful thing I found at UKTC. UKTC was also my first tournament, and not even my first tournament because I didn't play. I just watched people, but I got to watch what this tournament thing's all about. And towards the end, you have these massive crowds around one game, and like the pressure's on because it's either deciding something or or something as exciting as winning your first game, and it's just everybody's watching and everybody's cheering, and it's sort of like extreme, but even more intimate. Like
I didn't even notice until because I think I stood up to lean over the pitch to see, because all the action was down at the other end, because
serious stuff.
I was going to win, and so I was looking at it and I was panning out, and I kind of out the corner of my eye at that point started seeing everybody. But then when I did score and it was the win, everybody went crazy around me.
Yeah, Day had a moment like that, and it was actually a really good thing that he did, because they noticed he was going for the draw, so it was really important. This was a lose or draw situation, and so he did what he needed to, got the ball and all that, and then he blitzed a gutter runner with the Croxagore, but only rolled 2 dice, and they were like, oh, it failed, never mind, GG, done. And I ran off at that point because I had to go do some other things. But someone actually went, hang on, that should have been 3 dice, because that's a gutter runner. And he rolled the 3rd dice and it got him through, and he got the draw because somebody noticed, actually, that should have been a 3 dice.
Oh my god.
So it really actually turned the tables in that one game for him, that he did have a bit of a crowd, because it was actually the last game of the entire weekend. They were like tidying up and collecting the pictures. So it was really tense and really like, we need to get this game done, because he was like rolling really quickly.
Day was doing that at UKTC. At his last game, they were clearing up all the pictures and he was only just finishing, wasn't he?
Yeah. It was insane.
That's a little bit of the downside of tabletop level, isn't it? Is that when you play online, the computer... And I understand that most people have played... Well, a lot of people who might be watching this have played this for 20 years and they don't make such mistakes. But really, I would prefer the computer to make sure I don't cheat by accident. And, you know, when you're playing, there's so many things you need to keep in mind. And I have this skill and that skill, and there's this many tackle zones. And by God, wouldn't it be nice if there was something that's just keeping track of it?
Well, yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? But the thing is, you know your team. Your opponent knows your opponent's team, and then you kind of work out the rest of the rules together. So everyone I played against, I kind of gave them a bit of disclaimer when I sat down, like, I haven't played very many games of this. You know, if I make a mistake, please point it out.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing it for each other. So when I went to Wibble Bowl on Easter Sunday, there was at one point I was playing Six Eggs, actually, lovely guy, really fun game. And he was rolling the dice. I was like, no, actually, that's supposed to be 3 dice against my skink, which was, I don't know, do that. It's like just little things like you're both noticing what's going on, and most people are honest and will say, oh, actually, no, that's a little bit wrong. You have to, you know, that's 3 dice, or no, there's a tackle zone there, or just so you're aware, I've got a player behind this that you can't see because my models are just so goddamn big.
Yeah. I completely forgot to turn off the sound alerts when people come into chat. Oh well.
I was realised that because I typed response.
It's fine. No, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Don't worry.
Giraffes don't wear scarves.
They don't. So what I've found, because I've played a lot of League games as well, is, and when I started playing League games, I was very, very new. Like, I had been playing for like a month or 2 months at that point, so I was still learning the game. Like, I hadn't played Blood Bowl 2 very much, so I was still learning tackle zones and skills. And if you just say to your opponent, hey, look, I'm a little bit new, or I'm not used to playing tabletop, so I may make some mistakes, 9 times out of 10 they will help you, and they'll go through it, and they'll go, oh, actually, sometimes they'll go, oh, if you'd gone that way, then that would have been better, and they'll help you sometimes. There's only been once or twice where I've come across somebody who wouldn't do that, and they were being quite serious about the game, which, you know, some people are, and you kind of just go, okay, and just try your best to remember what you can. but they're very rare, those games. Most of the time everybody's really lovely and will be happy to help you out and just say I think quite a few people have a rule of, if the dice haven't been rolled, you can take it back. So you don't get the accidental in Blood Bowl 2, I've put them in the wrong square, I now have to do a dodge and put them in the better square. You can just go, oh yeah, I should have put them there instead, sorry, that was what I was meant to do. And yeah, so a lot of people have that kind of rule, so it's very lovely. And I've yet to meet somebody who's been truly horrible when playing against in Blood Bowl on tabletop. That day may come, I don't know. In person.
I do think there's a couple of things that make UKTC like experiences there like specific, which is, first of all, I think team tournaments probably play a bit differently to individual tournaments anyway. But I also think there were probably very different experiences, because I spent most of my day, me and Collie, our weekend, in the sort of the lovely room that was at the bottom end of the scoring, should we say, and we had a lot of fun, because in the end, like, I think we went there with the idea, I know I did, actually we had quite an interesting conversation, didn't we, Collie and Dizzy, after my Chalice game this week with Andy, where we were talking about like team tournaments, like everyone being on the same page, but I think we all went there like wanting to just have fun and like enjoy it. But I know from hearing other people who were in the sort of other room, like that there was, I mean, I've heard one person in particular saying he played an opponent who he felt like was deliberately going slow to get a draw because he was going to lose. So I think there probably are very different like mindsets at different sort of ends of things, like the people, because people are trying to win, and that's totally like another really good reason to go to a tournament, right, to try and win it. And I think maybe like the sort of friendliness that you guys are talking about, where it's like, yeah, like show each other if you're making like if you're like thinking about stuff like Thor was saying about like reminding people to give their trolls friends, like I would do that, but I bet there's a bit less of that at the top tables, because people are sort of there like being a bit more cutthroat, trying to win.
You're totally right. I actually, oh sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead, Colin.
Well, I was just going to say that our first match of 4, we played against Seabros and Co, didn't we? So I had Hargrim, and he is so sweet. He's a lovely guy. And even though, they're top tier, they are up there, they're a really good team, and they placed really, really well. But there was at one point, I mean, I was 3-0 down, so it didn't really matter. But me and Hargrim were talking through how I could get the one-turn touchdown. That fucking ball bobbled 2-0, so I won't get it anyway. But besides that, yeah, they were all really lovely. And even though, they are highly skilled players and we're there to win, he was lovely and helpful and sweet and just really welcoming. And it really calmed my nerves for the day, because I was so nervous going into that first game.
Yeah. You did an incredible thing about the tournament. Like, you came in, Collie, having just not played tabletop and just went for it, and that was amazing. It was really cool.
I had such a good time.
But yeah, I wanted to say that because I didn't play, but I did get to watch quite a bit and stand behind people and kind of loom. And so I've done a little bit on both rooms, and the vibe was actually quite different. And the one in the competitive room was very, like, it was quite cutthroat, and there was a lot of like yelling at the right moments. There was a team, and I'm not sure which team it was, but there was one team that, like, I think it was a team thing where they were rolling dice in a way that would make the table shake. Like, it was we will roll the dice and we will show those dice who's boss. And I think it was kind of like there was a team psychological strategy I feel like it was there to intimidate the other team.
Yeah. Do you know that it's funny though, because I think that's right. Like, I remember at the World Cup there were a couple of teams that were like really noisy, and I did wonder exactly that, Giraffe, if like that was like deliberate, like we're doing this to make things scary for our opponents. Because
Did they play Andy? Because I think I remember Andy just kind of sat there, all slapped down, like, I don't give a shit. I don't know.
It must have been, because I did watch Andy quite a bit, and he was in the most easily accessible table. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they were on there. They didn't move all weekend.
No.
Yeah, there were a lot of tables that were quite difficult to get to.
I have to say, the whole change places thing was quite stressful.
That was for you. I mean, we changed once on day one and went straight to the bottom table and stayed there.
We started on the bottom table, and
we didn't stay there on the last day. We moved, Collie. We won 3 rounds in a row.
No, sorry, I meant the first day. The last day, we were just climbing and climbing and climbing. It's a shame there wasn't a third day because I think we would have ended up in the top room.
You're killing the narrative there, Tree. The narrative was that you didn't move.
Have you turned me up a little bit, Zizzy?
I've just turned you up to full.
Is that better? Is that better?
Yes,
Testing?
is that better? At the end of the day, we're all there to play a game. We all love. Yeah, exactly. And I think that was the lovely thing about the bottom room was that the lower room was that everyone was just having fun. Like there was one moment where I can't remember what his name is, but he came up to us and said about how he loved the podcast. He came and I remember him getting up and running around the room because he just did something, and I can't remember what it was he did, but he was very happy about it, and we all got to cheer him on because he managed to do this thing. And it's, there was a lot more cheering on each other, and Widron, was it you?
I thought it was Widron. That's exactly what I was thinking. It was Widron.
Widron came up to me and he goes, I know your voice. Are you a giraffe?
Oh, Widron. Hello. Well, it's harder because when the actual podcast usually doesn't have our faces to it, so I think it's fair.
Yeah, but I'm not American.
That is true. I'm sorry to say you are not. Speaking of intimidating things,
what's an Allen dice?
What is it?
This is from Two Drunk Flings. Alan or Gilly Wonka. He is very well known for not winning a lot of games, and he was using Allen dice, which I think they have Alan's face on them, and so yeah, he rolled a 6 with the Allen dice. So it's
I remember those dice because they have a face on one side and the one is a belly button.
Yeah,
the one is a belly button. It's gross.
Oh, someone showed me those. I think Widron, you showed it me. Gilly Wonka is lovely. If you ever get a chance to say hi to him, please, go say hi. He's so lovely and always looking out for other people. He's been very welcoming to me when I joined the Two Drunk Flings. So yeah. I forgot.
Can we talk about the one most intimidating part of UKTC for me?
Yeah.
So I did it as kind of an exploratory thing, dip my toe in the water, see is this something that I might want to do, and it's awesome, I want to do. And the one thing you need to do when you go to a tabletop tournament is you need to have a team. And it could be your team, it could be borrowed team, but it's got to be painted. And I thought most people are not, professional artist level painters. So there's going to be so here's how my team would look like, and I honestly tell you this is how it's going to look like. I would throw something on it and spill it, and that's it. There's going to be no painting. There are no brushes in it. Right? And I assume that's what most people do, just be able to differentiate between the figures, and that's all you need. And they're stunning. Every single team. I saw one team that looked, how should I say this politely, about like what I would draw it like. And the rest of them are just stunning and intricately painted and with so much love. And but tell me, is this a requirement? Is this what I have to do to be part of this?
I know somebody
because I can't.
I know somebody who's got a team of rubber ducks, and they've written on the ducks what the team parts are. So no, it doesn't have to be.
For a lot of people, it's just part of the hobby. I mean, I've got all our minis behind us. They're not all painted, but if anyone wants to see any, just shout out.
Oh, yes, we do. Bring them over.
Which ones? There's loads of them.
Oh man, I like the corn, but apparently the corn aren't the coolest. So
they're not painted. The woodies are painted. The sprayed, yeah, they're undercoated. The woodies are painted. Hang on.
I've got one here that I've just found that Day-Day's done, which is this little
oh man, it's trying to blur it out.
It is trying to blur it out. It's not liking it at all. This camera doesn't like focusing on anything, so when I've got it like a miniature in front of it really doesn't like it.
Sorry, Thor.
It just looks like a green blob, so there you go.
What is it?
Oh, hold on, we'll wait for Thor to come back. So, this is under the Woody team.
Oh, hold on. I need to make you big. Oh, see, that's pretty.
So
I
I would
can't
not
see
do any of this
Okay, Thor's
painting.
back. But Thor is actually trying a challenge at the moment, I believe. I think you're still doing it, aren't you, Thor? Where he's trying to get best painted with every race. So is doing a lot of painting at the moment.
See, that's intimidating. That's real intimidating.
But that's people who are entering into the best painted competition. You don't have to enter that. I had 2 of my teammates enter, but I didn't, and another teammate didn't. You're 2 away. 2. Oh my god, Thor! Wow, that's impressive.
Which ones are left?
Yeah, which 2 teams have you got left? I love painting, but my teams look good to me, and some people are amazing painters that have
humans.
Ah.
This is my absolute favourite model.
Oh wow.
This is my Croxicle.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
like the loincloth. It's a little weird.
And I
think
who doesn't want their dinosaurs in a thong?
You know, even the mouse, and I absolutely adore this model. I got Techno's cursing me in the other room if he's watching because I'm putting his models on. But yeah, this is such a good boy. He's such a good boy. He's such a good boy.
You gotta talk to your models. That's how they move.
Models, yeah.
But like,
absolutely.
I think that's one of the first things that I remember from the first tournament I went to with Blood Bowl. It's one of the things I really like in Blood Bowl is that there's like real acceptance of like minis that aren't official. Like, if I've seen someone using like wrestling figures for an ogre's team, and then I can't remember what the difference of minis were. Like, as long as you can see what everything is clearly on the tabletop and they fit in the squares, I think everyone doesn't mind.
I played against a dwarf team that was the Grebo animal ones. So it was the are they little pigs or something? I can't remember, but they played. I think they're the pigs, the dwarves. But yeah, like unless you're playing in a Games Workshop store, so like Warhammer World or something like that, where they're very particular about what models you use and what games you play there. Most tournaments don't really care, as long as, and if you're entering best painted, as long as you have painted them, then that's fine. My feelings. Yes, so Thor, I played against Thor at Water Bowl, and Thor had they were like Alice in Wonderland, or they had like lots of different like fantasy creatures. I can't quite remember all of them, but they were really cool. For like the halflings were like I think one of them was Alice, and then there was like Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I can't quite remember. Element is so like Waterball isn't particular about orphans. That was it. So yeah, it had like lots of different orphan characters in it, and it was really well painted. But yeah, so nobody really cares unless you're at an actual official Games Workshop run event, and then that's when you can be a bit. But again, it doesn't matter how they're painted as long as they're Games Workshop. And I think for most people, as long as you're happy with how they're painted and as long as you're proud of your work, then the quality of it doesn't really matter either. And again, it's just if you're going for that award, which
Legos.
I do love seeing the really good ones. Like, it's really amazing when you see a beautiful team and you get to like pick it up and go, wow. Like, but I think it's like it's cool. It's I think it's just, in not every way, but in that way and in lots of ways, that's one of the things that's nice about it being such an accepting hobby. It's just like, come along and play this game you like, and the details aren't so important as long as you're sort of up for playing the game.
Bring your Legos.
Yeah.
So,
I just need to make a team of giraffes then. Okay.
Yes. Oh my god, yes.
Yes.
On Easter Sunday, I played when I played Sickers Eggs, I played next to K-Fox, who had a lizard team that was all turtles. And I asked about them. He said he got one of them was an actual mini. I think the Crocs was an actual mini, and the rest of them his friend had made them for him with green stuff. I thought, that's incredible. Some people are so talented.
I bet they're adorable. I want something adorable.
They were so good. They were so gorgeous.
I've seen.
Grebo done a giraffe team? Grebo do lots of animal teams.
I
I
don't
don't
think so. I don't think so. They've done penguins,
Alright,
which
well,
oh my god, I
Oh,
love
good, I
it.
want
Don't mind me.
But I've seen so many different like creative things that people have done at tournaments. Somebody had like these magnetic skulls that were different coloured. So instead of like loom bands or a thing, they put the magnetic. Did you play him? I think a couple of people will do it now, but he had this box as well, and the magnetic skulls like were magnetized to the lid, so that when he opened and closed it, they were all just there. Like he could just pick and choose which skulls, which skills.
Yeah, I played him. I played him. I played him at Wibble.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because I only saw him at Waterball. I don't remember seeing him at UKTC, but I might be wrong there. I played against a beautifully painted team, but it's more about the coach and the game. Yeah, exactly. Like the better painted the team doesn't mean the coach is any better at playing the game. It just means that aspect of the hobby that they're very good at.
Yes, I have absolutely no interest in building and painting a team. It's just not for me. I have about as much creativity as a wooden spoon, so it's just not for me. But Techno, he absolutely loves to build and convert and get them all in different poses. And he's got bags and bags and bags of these extra bits to make everything look different. So for Christmas, I got him the quarantine, but I got him 2 boxes of the quarantine so that he really could just fuck about and find out.
Yeah.
In the best of ways.
I love Widrum's positivity. 20 plus years of playing and can't remember a bad game. That is such a good outlook.
Oh, you're the only one.
Yeah.
I must be the only one. How did you do it?
When you said bad game, though, do you mean a game you had fun with the coach, or the game went badly?
That's always the thing. Because sometimes you see it a lot more on Blood Bowl 2 with the salt levels and things like that, but you can get it in person where the opponent can get a bit upset and a bit standoffish sometimes, and it's like we're just moving around some silly little miniatures. It's hard not to get too invested. That has to be said. It is hard not to get invested in what's happening, but at the same time you've got to try and remember, like, you're both playing the same game, you're both like doing what you can. That's because I only play for fun. Win or lose or draw, I always have a giggle. I mean, that's the best way to kind of look at it. It's kind of why. Oh, sorry, Trey, go on.
No, I feel like I should say, because Widrum and I did play in the last game of the tournament, and I feel like but that game, one of the reasons it was so fun was like because I was playing goblins and Widrum was playing undead, and like Widrum could have done an 8-turn stall on his first drive, probably because he smashed my goblins about, but instead he just scored and said, "Come on, let's not stall," and so then. When it was my drive, I did the same thing. Like, so we both did that. And so it ended up being like a really sort of just more sort of fun game than it would have been if we both just sort of taken our drive and gone and sit and stopped in one corner and stored. So yeah, that's how you have fun games for 20 years, is having that mindset, I think.
Well, it's certainly, I think, a lot easier to see the humanity of your opponent when there is an actual human in front of you, as opposed to just, anything, anybody. You can imagine the most evil thing in the universe as your opponent. But, easier to take it out on them then.
Yeah, it definitely does. I don't know. Have there been any? Have there been many tournaments, like, so not leagues, not like Chalice and things like that? But have there been many tournaments run on Blood Bowl 2? Have any of you guys sort of taken part in anything like that?
Well, all of this is my first foray into it, and I've been kind of don't want to do that. It's going to be too competitive. I'm not that good. I won't really have fun. I'm going to end up sat there not enjoying myself. So I would just. I mean, the only reason I did end up going was because Tree's team needed an extra player, or there would have been.
I'm so glad that happened.
And it was like, well, I'm doing a friend a favour. It's only down the road, and I get to hang out with a bunch of friends. So. If I don't enjoy it, it's not the end of the world. But I'm so glad that I did do it. And it probably might open the door for me to go doing maybe more things as time goes on, I have to say.
You've literally already done another tournament. There's no maybe about it. You've
Yeah.
literally
Other,
already done
but
another
other
one.
kinds of tournaments, other different
okay.
things, not just Blood Bowl. Because absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're already booked for UKTC2 next year. We're already going. It's like we're going to the World Cup, and you don't have a choice in the matter lose. And then there's Andy Bowl if he ever actually books it, or and there's
He's trying to get it sorted.
the West Yorkshire League
Apparently.
is doing something again in October with Euro Bowl rules, and there's that doubles tournament coming up. So I mean that's 5 I've got planned in the space of a year. I'm hoping to be able to do more.
So Hellboy's coming with before Blood Bowl 2 died, there were NAF events sometimes. Water Bowl ran 1 year on Blood Bowl 2, but they were hard because
Oh yeah, there's Water Bowl. I want to go to Water Bowl.
the rules were already out of date and you can't take the same style twice like on Fumble. Okay, so yeah, there have been attempts at tournaments on Blood Bowl 2, but like you say, the rules are now outdated, so that does make things a bit more tricky.
I think I might have done that Water Bowl. I did an NAF tournament on Blood Bowl 2, and I found it, in the end, like the logistics of it were sort of messy for some reason, and I can't remember why anymore. But it was during lockdown. It was like during peak lockdown. It was like, there's this tournament. I think you were the one who told me about it, Dizzy. I think you were telling me about it. I was like, oh, if Dizzy's doing it, I'll do it. And then you didn't actually enter it.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I can't remember. I actually don't remember that. So definitely want to make a Nando's bowl. Oh my god. I mean, we could have a look.
I might do Wittering. I think there's a good chance I'm probably going to end up at Water Bowl. The only problem is the logistics of it with the kids. I've got young kids, so I can't just keep disappearing every weekend to do a tournament. I kind of want to see them too, sometimes, maybe.
That actually sort of is something I wanted to touch upon. Actually, was I was really not surprised, but I was really happy to see how many women there were, and not just us four. There was another woman on the team that I was playing in, and then I saw a couple of others who were dotted around, and they had kids with them, and you know, were still playing, and I was really, really happy to see that. I didn't get a chance to talk to many of them, but that was something that, like, because I've been to a couple of tournaments now and there have been next to no women there at all, and it's been very much like, you know, a bit strange. And I knew obviously on the online world that's very different, so I was very, very happy to see how many women were there, and I know more people are like wanting to start playing and stuff. So yeah, I think that was something I was quite pleased.
Yeah,
Really not. What if one of the organizing things? So, just this is just listening to what Kali was saying, right? What if one of the parts of the organization was to try to arrange some sort of childcare? If people wanted to bring their families and don't just leave their kids at home, because you leave kids at home, you have to leave it with somebody, and more often than not, it's gonna be the wife in the relationship, and then there you go, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not just the women that have the kids. There's a lot of people there that are, you know, adults that have children.
Not playing tickets to camping. There you go. That sounds like loads of fun.
So Thrud
But I hate camping. Oh, I hate camping.
Okay, well that's a different story, but it's an option, right? It's an option.
Well, absolutely, that's great. That is really great. But I'd love to, but I can't. I hate camping just that much.
Can it be not camping? Yeah.
You can get a hotel for Thrud Bowl. You don't have to be camping, but I think like the one thing that sort of struck me was when we were talking about the World Cup and us possibly doing a team for World Cup. One of the biggest barriers to our team was the fact that it falls. I know it's not obviously in Britain, but it falls at a really awkward time during the school year, which is the very start of it, which is also kind of a bit problematic for me as well, but I should be able to work around it, whereas for you it's a lot harder to work around, Collie. And that was
is difficult, yeah. That was one thing. So the World Cup, it's the first weekend. It's like the second weekend of September next year,
something like that, yeah.
And the kids go back to school on like the Tuesday, and then it's that weekend of the 9th and 10th. So I get
yeah.
why they picked that weekend, because it's a hell of a lot cheaper for everybody to be able to go. But then that puts me in a really awkward position. So I could go completely on my own and leave my husband at home looking after the kids while I'm studying up in Alicante, and that just doesn't feel fair. So I could physically, I could, morally I wouldn't, because it just doesn't feel fair. So then the other option is trying to find someone to have the kids for the few days and just make a weekend of it. But I don't have anybody nearby. And then the third option is to take the kids out of school and tell school, so I'm taking the kids out of school for a board game tournament. You're taking the kids out of school to go play board games. No, I'm taking the kids out of school so I can go play board games.
You need to explain it's the World Cup. It's not just any board game tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just one of those things, but like my son missed nearly a year of school with COVID lockdowns, and I'm reluctant to take him out again, but at the same time, we don't get time to have a holiday, because if we do go, we're not just going to go and do the World Cup, we will go for like a week and make it a family holiday.
Sell it as a maths and numbers field trip. Love it.
Actually,
Probabilities. We're learning about probabilities.
yeah, we have Widram, who mentioned that like kids are now old enough to be left, but folks in chat who do have kids, how do you do this?
Jimmy, cheeky Jimmy.
How do you work this out? Yeah, Jimmy. No, everybody really. Because that seems very difficult when you have children. You're leaving it with your at best you're leaving them with your partner, which doesn't seem great. Or do you bring them in and make a holiday out of it? What's the story? How do you do it?
Because that was something that Dana and I have had to really talk about, is because we want to have children at some point, and we're coming into we're coming into the stage of our lives where that's very much a possibility as soon as we move out of this house. But so it's like at that point, with both of us wanting to go and play at tournaments and things, that's going to be something we're going to have to really consider. Yes, dating is aware. No, I'm not just. This isn't the announcement on the podcast. This is something we have discussed.
David.
But
David's really going after all those sound alerts you did to him on the horror stream.
Oh my goodness.
That was my
Collie, did you have fun on that stream last night?
So much fun. Oh my god, it was amazing. I spent a small fortune. It was worth every penny.
But yeah, so that is something we have to kind of like consider, and we have talked about, like, is this going to be something that we're going to struggle with? Like, what would be our plans at the time, like to take care of them? And it's something that I don't think has really... I don't know, obviously, because I've not been around the Blood Bowl scene for too long, but, like, I don't know how much that's been considered in planning these tournaments and things, and is there things available for a couple or some parents who want to go and play but need some support for the children? Like, it just feels...
My only context... Oh, go ahead.
I can't take the younger two. I absolutely just cannot. There'd be broken minis, there'd be dice everywhere, there'd be boards everywhere, and it would just be a disaster, and I'd get banned from that forever. But I could almost probably take my eldest. It's a long time to sit and watch, though. It's...
Yeah. Even though he does...
My context for that is weddings, right? Weddings have this sometimes, not all, but I've been to weddings where people have also hired somebody to look over the children. And that's something that, like, in theory, it's not, fully solved problem, but it's something that has been provided for events. And it seems like for a large event where you charge maybe a little bit more and have this as an option available for anybody who wants to chip in.
Have a kid.
Oh, yeah, kids, mini Blood Bowl club where they teach them to like weapons and
get
the
them
basics.
foam dice. Get some foam dice for them, and
That's
get
right.
like
roll some dice.
Yeah, roll some dice. Teach them. So this is a POW.
Oh man, I want to run a tournament now just so that I could do this, and I have kids.
I just remember something about the World Cup.
Tutorials.
Painting tutorials, brilliant.
You could like all the parents that want to take their kids, throw in an extra like £20 per ticket, buy a bunch of minis, buy some cheap paints, not the good paints, and you just have like a section for the children and have fun.
Tree, what were you going to say?
I don't know if I'm misremembering this, but I think for the World Cup, you're allowed to have more players in your team than the number of players playing, and then you're allowed to like have people swapping in and out, like if they're in your squad, which actually could be quite a nice way for parents if they can't do every game, like to be able to sort of take
That
turns
would be a really
and
good one.
combine. I don't know if I've misremembered that, but if it's not a real thing, then it should be a real thing.
Woodrum saying yes, that sounds
Yeah.
sounds like a fantastic idea, because then that means our own women's team that we're putting together, Techno can bang a wig on and take one of my games.
And Day as well. Day can
And
come
Dana can
in.
bang a wig
Yeah.
on.
I love that idea. Yeah, that sounds like a really good solution to it,
That is
because
a really, really good solution.
it doesn't mean
You're
that
right,
you both.
you're right in Percher's side. It's not so simple, and in this country, you know, they need to be DBS checked or CRB checked, whatever it's called now.
It's DBS.
Appropriate qualifications, you need to have this, you need to have that, you have to have the right ratios. I know it's not quite so simple, but it's not something that's impossible,
Yeah, definitely.
because there are childminders around that have these sorts of qualifications, and you could, wherever you're doing it, you know, you can get the list from the council, you can give them a call, and you could talk to them and say, this is what we're doing, we want to hire you for a full day, what would your rates be?
Yeah, I think it would be logistically tricky, but it's the same sort of idea as like a preschool or a school. You know, you'd have a certain amount of adults for how many children there are, so you'd need to know beforehand like how many kids are going to be coming along, so you can hire the relevant amount of adults and things like that. But it is possible. It is definitely possible. Like, you know,
I mean, as long as you're taking them over age of 4, Dizzy, you will probably know this better than me on terms of ratios. It's something like 15 kids to one person.
Something along those lines. I think.
Yeah.
I think at 4 it's like 6, 1 adult to 6 kids. It's a
Well,
lot lower than that.
in preschool, it's 8 to 1.
Yes, I think 6 or 8 to 1.
So that's at age 3. But once they get into school,
Yeah, it's a
like
lot.
for after school clubs, it's like 15 kids to 1 adult.
Yeah, but
People
even
know
when you
about kids.
even when you go on like school trips, you take so many adults, you get so many parent volunteers, and they have like really small groups. You have 4 or 5 kids per adult. So even though legally it's like 12, 15 kids per adult, you overcompensate and you get as many adults as you can in. But if you're paying that, like, you can definitely do it. It's possible. Logistically, it could be tricky, but I'd imagine that you'd see a lot more people come into Blood Bowl tournaments and a lot more families come into Blood Bowl tournaments, and I think it would just create a really nice atmosphere of like a family event.
It's basically crack, right? You open it, you start them young,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
then slowly that's how you get the new generation of Blood Bowlians, and then there you go.
There is
Real fun.
I feel like it's not really been big in this country at all, but they did make like a simpler version of Blood Bowl, didn't they? Like, is it called Blitz Bowl or something that like it's like got the same
sevens.
minis and
It's 7s.
no, not sevens. It's
No,
something
not
different.
7s.
It's like a whole separate box game you can buy, which it uses some of the same minis, but the game is quite different and a lot simpler. And I feel like it's been very popular in the States or something. I have one friend who got hold of it, and like I don't know really much about it though,
Well,
so I need someone in chat to know what I'm talking about and tell
A
me.
really, really, really interesting point, that if we get them into the plastic crack of minis, they'll never have money for drugs or alcohol.
Get them into other bad habits
solved.
first.
Well, that's not a bad habit. It's
First team is
fostering
free.
creativity. It's fostering relationships with your opponent. It's fine finger work, putting them together. It's artistic talent, painting.
Critical
This
thinking.
is a win-win situation.
Probably say the same thing about crack, but okay.
What?
Sure. But this is better, yes.
You have 2 very different experiences of crack.
Clearly. We can talk about that after the podcast. Compare notes.
Oh dear.
Anyway, so, what were we talking about before crack?
I can't remember now. All I've got in my head is crack.
So anybody who doesn't Well, anybody who's watching us now, what you don't know behind the scenes is usually we have like 3 hours worth of random chatter in all of our podcasts, and then poor Dizzy goes and has to edit the whole thing down to something that's coherent. And now you're just seeing that live.
Right. I'll tell you what. Because we've been going for what? Is it nearly an hour now? I haven't even eaten anything yet. So why don't we ask chat? Have you got any questions that you want to ask any of us? And I mean any questions at all, not just related to
Most questions.
So this is we'll turn this into an AMA. Ask, hey, listen, anything.
Hey. This is every podcast. Yeah.
So many tangents and rants have not made it into episodes due to me trying to cut down to things.
Or somebody, me or Collie, says something extremely not safe for work.
I think the Monty episode had to be incredibly edited.
Well, you couldn't do anything with the Monty episode. That was, I mean, you either cut the whole thing or just.
Right, Cheeky Jimmy is asked why I'm such a frenzy monster.
Okay.
And because, quite frankly, I just want to have fun. Like, everyone was telling me, like, no, don't take frenzy on your list team. That's just daft, 5 block. That's boring as hell, and that's just not fun. So I took one frenzy when it was just for a laugh. But what I noticed when I was at UKTC when I was doing it is that people set up really differently against it. And they were incredibly mindful of it every time they were making a turn. So even though at UKTC I didn't, apart from one game, utilise it that much, it always made people think. So if you're gonna do something different, they sit there. Oh, I know, Hellboy, I hated the Mighty Lord in a minute as well. They sit there and they think, like, I have to be careful that frenzy's there because she's probably going to be stupid enough to use it. Like you were saying, you had a leap chainsaw at one point. I knew there was no way that you were probably going to leap in with a chainsaw unless you were in a case of this is like literally the only thing I have left.
What do you mean, no way?
I look at that and think, fuck me, she's got a leap chainsaw. This crazy motherfucker's going to do anything.
There's definitely something in that in Blood Bowl. Like there really is. Like I love Frenzy for all the reasons you do, so I'm on Team Frenzy as well. But I do really sort of think that's like 100% true. Like in Blood Bowl, you work out at a certain point that like any of those feelings you have when you're on offense and you're not sure what to do and you're scared of your opponent, that's how they feel when they see your stupid player with a leap. Like if you've just got leap, they think to themselves, is she stupid enough to use that in this stupid way? And then they have to plan their offense around it.
It's a very similar reason of taking the wizard, isn't it? The threat of the wizard is worse, or is more, like they're going to think about it more than just using the wizard. So, like, it's exactly the same thing, really, as the threat of that particular skill. It's annoying, and I've got to think about it in case you do it.
So when I went to UKTC, I took 3 block, 1 mighty blow for the lulz, and 1 frenzy. And then when I went to Wibble, I took the 3 block, the 1 frenzy, but I swapped my mighty blow for tackle. And I was in the car and I'm driving out like, oh, should I have stuck with the mighty blow? Maybe I'll get something up. But the rule set for Wibble was that the tier 3 teams and stunted teams could have star players. So I was expecting to see more at Wibble than I did at UKTC. And I got there, I was like, no, I'm going to go with the tackle. Handed over my roster to Spleggy, who ran an amazing tournament, by the way, well done, Spleggy. And my first matchup was against Flim, so I sat down and I'm like, I have been vindicated, this is amazing. And when he was setting up, he's like, got to be careful because you've got Frenzy there and you've got Tackle there. And it just made him set up really, really narrow, which made it a lot easier for me to get through. So just the fact that I had it made players play differently to how they wanted to actually play.
And that's how people, right? That's your leaps, your frenzies, your shadowing chunter, like all of that just intimidates people into being zombie.
It's all part of the psychology. I think we got a really, really good game from Karmakata. So any tips for when you're playing tabletop, like one in the book is to turn your models facing towards you once activated to keep track of moves. So that's something that I do. So in one turn I will turn them all when I'm done with them to face the opposite direction. and then the next turn I will turn them round again. You've just got to remember to always turn your models around. And this is one tip, I think I got this from the Bonehead podcast, was when you start, say that's the end of your turn 1 and this is into my turn 2, and move your turn marker so that you keep you keep on top of your turns, because it's so easy to forget that point, especially when something happens and you sat there like, right, I've seen the play, I'm getting into it. Just, this is my turn 1, and now I've finished my turn 1, and now it's into your turn 2.
One that I had, I think Thor told it me at Water Bowl, because I had models that were very thin, so if I'm stunned, I turn over, it would just roll straight back over. So one thing that Thor said was, if it's stunned, face it so the base is facing you, so it's not on its side. It's not, so you've got the base facing you, so I know that is stunned, so regardless of whether it rolls over or not, the base is facing me. I know that player is not getting up this turn. So that one, it was Thor who told me that one. So that one I've actually, I haven't used it as much now that I'm playing Undead, because they don't roll as much, but when I was playing Dark Elf, it was really useful because I had so many of them that would just spin on their square and I couldn't tell which one was going to be stunned. So that one was a really useful one when I have models that are easily rolling.
Richard was saying in chat that he uses that all the time. He taught that to me at UKTC. He did that at UKTC, and I was like, oh, that's clever.
So I got another interesting one. When you're looking at things and you're thinking, right, well, I could do this, and you're counting it out, and you think, right, I could do this, put a dice or something in the spot that you counted to.
Yes.
Because if you're thinking of a couple of different plays that you could do, so it's like, I could go here and I'll get to there, or I could do this and I can get to there, and just put a dice in each one.
Yeah.
And then when you come to do it and start rolling your dice, you could just you could just say, right, I'm dodging to there, roll the dice, and then I'm dodging to there and roll the dice, and then once you're through the dice rolls, you could just put it where the dice is without losing track of where you've gone.
Yeah. One thing that I found really useful, because I still sometimes struggle a little bit with tackle zones, and like, is this going to be a 1 dice or a 2 dice? So one thing I always go is, I am strength 3, 4, your strength 4, 5, and I will like point at the players so that if I'm not quite right, my opponent can go, actually no, this one's got guard, so you're actually strength 3. And also, things like that. So if I'm saying it out loud, then I know in my head, like, okay, this is going to be 1 dice or it's going to be 2 dice. My opponent can then go, yeah, that's about right. So that just, as you go on, you probably will use that one less, but I still do that. I find that really useful for me to go, okay, I'm strength whatever, and I have +1, so I'm strength 6 overall, you are strength 4, 5, whatever. So yeah, that's one that I still do quite a bit.
I do that as well. So I will go, and I'm hitting with this. This is strength 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is a 3 dice.
Yeah, talking things out. It just gives you that peace of mind, especially if you're coming from playing on Blood Bowl 2, where everything is like nice and visual and you can see everything and you know exactly how it's worked. You can just kind of go, okay, let me try and visualize it and talk it through. And then, like I talk through everything that I'm doing. So I was like, I'm going to move this there, so my opponent can see exactly what I'm doing. So if they've spotted something like, oh, actually, you're going into a tackle zone there. Yeah. You're about to walk through a tackle zone. Oh, shit, yeah, I am. No, I can't do that. I'll just rethink things. So yeah, most of your opponents are going to be nice enough to spot that out to you, rather than saying then that's a dodge and can't take it back. Yeah. Most people will be helpful enough to say that.
Do you guys how do you guys feel about like dice cups or dice mats or dice towers? Like, because I feel like one of the things that I always end up doing at tabletop tournaments, at least like almost like once a game at least, I end up throwing a dice on the floor, and then you've got hundreds of people in the room and you're trying to find a dice.
I full on knocked over someone's pieces at UKTC. I threw the dice cup. The dice cup just went flying out my hands.
So to be fair, he then did it to me. With a dice cup is when you get people and they put the dice in it and then they do this with it. It's like, no, I want to see that coconut rattle. I sometimes do both.
I'll do a bit of both. I've seen someone like roll the dice, then put it in the dice cup and roll it. So that's always interesting. I think I think there are ways of kind of.
You don't need to slam a dice cup.
Yeah.
So what's the etiquette exactly? Can you call people out? What's the proper way of doing it? If somebody is not sufficiently right, it's too whiny and not enough.
You need to make the agreement before you start playing. That if you see they have a dice cup, you just say, "I want to see, I want to see a good shake." If it's a solid dice cup, like, I want to hear it. So then, if they don't do it, you can call them out on it and you can say, "I want you to shit again."
I'd be so awkward about it because it's like. You're an adult, you know how to roll it up, but apparently not.
Exactly. But if you make that agreement beforehand, they know that you will call them out if you're not happy with how they rolled it. But you have to do it when they put the cup down before they lift it. So if you lift it double powers and you say roll it again, then it's like, well, I've just rolled double powers, you're being salty.
I really struggle with those
while
conversations.
They're doing it.
It's hard. It's really hard. But I think the same.
You need a how-to book. How to have difficult Blood Bowl conversations.
Yes. I think the same conversation needs to be had about if a dice sort of lands slanted. Because even though if it's obviously that number, like, is that a reroll? And so I always say, are you happy? Like, if my dice slants, I always say, are you happy with that, or would you like me to re-roll it? And I always offer to re-roll it.
And then it's fine.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay, you wanted me to re-roll the pow earlier. Not a flat reroll.
I do the same. So but there's I can't remember who it was that I played, and we were rolling like 3 dice. One of them was slanted. They're like, I'll re-roll that. It's like, mate, you're the 2 powers. What difference does it make?
Yeah, I think in that situation that's one thing, but if it's like if you're rolling 1 dice to do the dodge, then that's an entirely different thing. If there's an obvious I'm not going to choose this dice regardless of what it re-rolls into, then it doesn't it doesn't change. If it doesn't affect the outcome, then there's no point re-rolling it.
Yeah,
but
I think karma. It's just a case of agree with your opponent beforehand what etiquette you want to go for.
Yeah, as Widget says, always chat before the game.
Always just have the agreement of, well, we said it was going to be this.
Yeah.
But now you're not doing that. This is what we agreed before the game.
And there's like the other thing which we sort of touched on before with, I think this only really applies if you're at the more competitive tables. But I remember the very first game I played at the Tabletop World Cup, I remember getting really stressed out that my opponent was going really slowly. Just because I didn't want to be responsible for not finishing. And I know some people, because at tournaments you're allowed to ask for a chess clock, and I would be mortified to actually like say in the middle of a game, can we have a chess clock? So I just don't think it's a thing that it's not, I'm not playing at the top tables of tournaments, but I know that some people who do literally just bring their own chess clock and put it down at the start and just have that there from the beginning. So like that's like another thing which I think some people do for like tabletop, but yeah, I don't know, I hate that sort of thing. I hate being sort of,
I think I'm a lot less adverse to having those sorts of local conversations saying again chess clock, but you have to remember there's always a referee or a tournament official, and if you are unsure or you're not comfortable with making that call them over and ask them to make the call.
Yeah,
that's what they're there for.
Oh man, this reminds me of bridge tournaments. I had a very brief foray into bridge, and I don't know, like there's a stereotype, and I don't know how it is in the UK, maybe it's a little different. In the US, the stereotype, which is completely true, is it's older generation of folks, and in reality, you're just sitting there with a bunch of grandmas and grandpas, and you're playing them, and they're always like, director! They breathe fun. Actually, so I had somebody called on me because I breathed funnily. They thought that I sighed at looking at my at my hand, which gave my partner some sort of signal, so they actually called over a director to, I don't know, chastise me on incorrect breathing patterns, I think. And I kind of, so every time you say calling somebody over, it makes me think of these rules to clash, and that was normal. Like that seems to have been happening a lot, so people are very serious about their rules. I'm really glad Blood Bowl seems to not
I'm
quite
just
go
trying to remember. They breathe! Like trying to imagine it in a Blood Bowl. They breathe! Oh, that's very funny.
Serious. Breathe on my Crocs. Changes
It
everything.
nearly blew it over.
do you know actually that is one other thing at tabletop tournaments I think is sort of important, and I think sometimes when I'm excited and having fun in a game that like I can forget as well sometimes. do be really respectful of like other people's minis, like when you want to like say like that's been knocked down, like every now and then, like when you get like when it's near the end of the game you're getting excited, like you might want to like pick them up and like put them prone or whatever, but actually like everyone's got different sort of ways of handling their own minis, and I think sometimes people, including me, which is the thing I want to get better at, can sort of forget that when you're in the middle of a game. So that's the other
also about other people's minis, you know, as times are now, if you're going to use hand sanitizer, please make sure your hands are completely dry before you touch anyone's minis.
That's a good point. I always ask, are you okay with me touching your minis? Now I've gotten into the habit of just saying that, because over like when we started our league back, there was a thing about not touching other people's minis, or like checking with them. So I always be like, okay, are you happy? Are you happy with me are you happy with me moving that back, or like putting that prone, and just double checking with them. And even like throughout the game, I still sometimes just check in with them, like, is this still okay for me to do? So yeah, being very careful with them.
Connor, some people spend literally hours and hours and hours and hours on these minis, and they are really proud of them. It's easy to see why they are proud of them. They're gorgeous. So you just got to respect that for them. You've got to respect the effort that they've put in. So just, again, like with all the other things, is just check the etiquette before you're playing what that player themselves. Weeks or months even on some of them. Just check the etiquette before you start. Just say, how do you want me to put your minis down or whatever?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just ask. Deodorant. Please wear deodorant.
Yes, what Widram said. God, I will say that about UKTC. One of the best things about going, there were lots of good things about going into the fun room, because the fun room was fun, but the fun room did not smell. The not fun room, the serious room, I don't think it's because of the people who were in there. I think it was just that room had less good ventilation, but it smelled. It smelled, that room.
We did have windows open, and we were in a bigger room, but there was less of us. Which confused me. I would have put more people in the other room.
And I would say deodorant. Like, the issue isn't deodorant. The issue is showers.
Yes.
If I were to say, like, just consider if you must. But yeah. Also, I have learned that in England they have Lynx, which is, I think, the equivalent of Axe body spray.
Yes.
Axe in the US, yes. It's been a while since I've smelled the Lynx.
Oh, guys! What just happened?
Andy David coming in with a raid. Thank you very much, Andy. Welcome. We're just talking about tournaments and UKTC.
And showers.
You say his name and he arrives. Speak of the devil.
I wish Andy would have actually showered before going to UKTC.
Cheeky Jimmy, be careful of that new power. You don't want to... Oh, Andy's sad. Oh dear, what's happened to Andy?
What's happened to Andy?
Okay, I think we're pausing the podcast. What happened to Andy? Andy, okay? We've got a Ross!
We have a Ross. Does that help?
We have a Ross dog. Ross dog's gone. Okay, we don't have the Ross dog.
He's still here. He's on my lap. Hang on, if I can move the camera.
Andy, very sad. Yeah, Andy. Oh no, we have a dog. And he had a really rough set of games. But it was all one day, and no team died, right? So that's okay. You can just start over. And there's a dog. Well, there's an attempted dog.
I just have to say, I love that your microphone is resting on a box of Celebrations.
It's a bit sad actually doing this, because every time I see that box of Celebrations, I'm like, ooh, Celebrations, but there's none in it. So.
Is it like that tin of biscuits, which is like Schrodinger's cat? It's either biscuits or it's
needle.
A
Yeah, sewing set. Yeah, so if anyone who's just coming to chat, we are taking any questions. So if you have any questions for us, we've just been talking about tabletop etiquette and certain like rules that we have, or certain things that we do to make sure that everybody's.
Any tips we have,
any tips.
To maximise your playing experience.
Like showering, not during the game, preferably before, like in the morning. Today, kids, we will talk about hygiene. In the morning, when you wake up, the first thing I recommend you do is brush your teeth. Because you will be staring at an opponent like this far away from your face. You might be sharing some breath together. Oh god, where am I going with this? Anyway, and then you should take a shower. And now I'm done. I am sorry.
What electric car should you get? The Nissan Leaf Aegis.
Wow. Chloe just answers that without missing
Wait,
it.
what was the question?
What electric car should I get?
The
Hot Wheels.
Zoe. Get the Zoe.
I don't know.
I mean, straight for the Tesla, right? Go all out.
Oh no.
Sell a house, get a Tesla. It's fine.
Is Dizzy After Dark? We can make it Dizzy After Dark.
Are we going to do a weekly
God, I
podcast on a
volunteer.
Saturday now?
Oh my goodness.
Looking forward to be part.
Pretty dark.
Oh yeah,
Ariel.
definitely.
Squad chaos for the World Cup.
Woo! So we
In
are going.
Alicante.
We are going as the. I've forgotten what the team's name is now.
Right.
What team are we?
Well, you
Slanesh,
and you said we need to pick a chaos god, and I immediately went Slanesh.
You did. It was so fast. How quickly. I was surprised how quickly you replied. I was like, I don't know any chaos gods. Hopefully one of you guys
you
knows
know
something.
at least 2 chaos gods. You do know at least 2 chaos gods right now.
Well, I now know Slanesh.
What's the Blood
So
Bowl team?
There's 2 Blood Bowl teams.
Nurgle.
There are 2 Blood Bowl teams.
Nurgle.
I don't know what. Is it just chaos? I don't know.
No.
It's
No.
newly released-ish.
Norse. Not Norse.
And no, think
Old
Tabletop,
released
think
and
Andy.
new released, right? I think.
Think
Uh,
Andy.
Oh, corn.
Corn.
Corn. Okay, corn.
Andrew, yeah.
Frenzy, yes. I'm not like whenever anybody puts me. I think this happened in the first Two Drunk Flings podcast I was on. They started quizzing me about the new rules, and I was like, I don't know. I literally had just played my first league. My first tournament a few weeks prior. I was like, I don't know.
Nobody cares
you're
about
asking me.
Chorfs, Santa. No, we're not interested in Chorfs. Chorfs can die in a fire.
So how do you learn about this, right? Because I have a rule book. I haven't read the rule book.
So
I will
how
read
do
the
we-
rule
How do
book.
we learn about what?
How do you
how
get
do we
the
learn about
lore?
Chaos gods? The law.
Yeah.
Techno.
proper
You
way
don't.
about it.
Okay, so get married to somebody who actually enjoys it. Got it.
Yes.
One.
He loves reading the Black Library and stuff, so he knows all of it. He starts
Well,
talking and he's like,
That's the
yeah.
end goal of its
Every
own.
now and then
personality.
something goes in, so I heard debauchery, sex, and a few other things, and then Slanesh, I'm like, that's the one.
I looked
Sounds
up,
like it's after dark.
and I did look up Slanesh.
Oh, Steve has a question for us.
Ooh.
What games we
That's
currently
very
playing,
important.
and how are Giraffe's romance is going on Mass Effect? And I
Oh,
will
man.
say, Giraffe, I'm really disappointed you haven't played Mass Effect recently.
We need to do it. Oh man, I actually haven't. I was going to start a Mass Effect run on stream, but then I haven't because it's not a very good stream game. I wish you could just do the romance part, and then chat could help me out, and maybe I'll finally get that threesome I've always wanted.
I was
so,
considering
One
doing
hopes.
because I've never played
Yeah.
Mass Effect. I was considering also streaming it and doing a first time playthrough of Mass Effect on stream.
I would 100% watch you. I would absolutely love it. I don't know how, because there's a lot of kind of just listening to people talk, and I don't know how well that translates on stream. I feel really bad that there's not enough action going on, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me, and it's actually quite okay.
Yeah.
I'm not fully.
Interesting question there from Canada Man. I have never actually played in a league and never actually done the level up, so someone else want to have a go at that?
I do have some thoughts on the leveling system. I don't like it as much because I don't think it's as new player friendly as the other one was. I think it can be quite confusing because instead of it being random whether you get a double or a single, and you get that choice, and you get to like see what sort of like builds you can make, and you can build it up through a bit of chance. You now have to know what you want to do. Do you want to wait for that double? Do you want to wait for the stat? And like I feel like for some newer players it would be very tempting to wait for that stat and like trying to build it up. And I think also the way that you like, so for more experienced players, they can then farm a bit more, and like so you may have newer players not having teams last as long while trying to get to that stat or whatever, and so more experienced players are farming that a little bit, and so they are destroying the newer player teams quickly. And I just feel like it's a bit too you already need to sort of know what you're doing. I just feel like it just punishes people for not knowing the game, and I don't think that's very fair. And there's a lot of confusing, like, you know, not everybody, you don't know how the skills affect the game until you play them. So I think that is another aspect. Like, you know, I've seen somebody on a Wood Elf team take kickoff return on a catcher straight away, and I was like, why? Like, if you'd spoken to us, we would have like gone through some stuff with you. And so I just feel like it's, you know, for newer players, it can be really tricky to figure out whether you want to wait for those points or not, and like which skills would actually be useful to you to keeping the team alive. And so I've just always had an uneasy feeling around this new leveling system. So yeah, that's my view on it.
So that's actually, I think the new rules in general favour more experienced players, because the more rerolls per turn thing also helps more experienced players more, because a newer player will get enthusiastic and use all their rerolls at once, whereas I think now experienced players can be really sort of effective with that. But I do agree with you, like I agree with you like most of the way on the level ups. I think like if the level ups were, what's fun with the new level ups is if you did a league, for instance, where you said only the random ones. I think that gets really fun.
I like that one. Yeah, that
surely you mean Noble. Everybody check out Noble. Oh, which is a great random league.
Yeah, no,
that's
I agree with you.
I just think this is really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. This is still hard.
It's hard when we can't see each other. We can't see who's trying to talk now. It's still quite hard. But there was a point made. It was true of the previous levels. I agree, Santa, but there wasn't the danger of the other ones. So if you rolled a double, you then had the choice. You didn't always have that choice. If you just rolled a regular, you rolled a regular, and that was what you had. Now you have got access to those doubles and well as well, and so there's a danger, I think, of people who are newer and aren't as experienced, and maybe taking a team that they don't understand as well, or you know, or they aren't. Oh, they're new, so they're not playing like as the same as somebody who's more experienced, and so they are then aiming for those doubles and aiming for those stat ups because they think that looks really good, that's what I should be aiming for, and not taking the skills that might support their team better earlier on, if that makes sense. So I'm saying that's not necessarily, I'm not saying that's a definite for all new players, I'm just saying there's a danger there in how you level it up. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm unfounded in my fears, but I know that I was always very confused with the leveling system, like with what skills to take. But at least I had a limited choice with the regulars and the doubles. Now there's a whole host of choice, and you've now got to decide: do you take a random? Do you wait? Do you just take the primary? Do you wait for the double? Do you wait for the stat? Like, it just adds a whole other layer of difficulty and a bit of confusion that I feel is a bit unnecessary, and I think it could be, you know, it could put people off because they are waiting to get these really good skills. They choose the wrong one, their team dies, and they're like, well, what was the point of me taking that skill that I thought was really good? And I think it could put people off.
It's actually a good point, because I think most of these, I mean, all new rules are written, it seems, by people who have a lot of experience in Blood Bowl. And so they're writing kind of for themselves and for the things that they enjoy. But even Blood Bowl 2 is a tremendously steep learning curve, right? It takes forever to get somewhere. It's a bit of a filtration, like self-filtration exercise, and who is stubborn enough and masochistic enough to wait for the pain to finish to at least a little bit understand what's going on, because you don't even get the mechanics fully right until your 50th game. So, how...
There's people, when we're watching streamers and people are looking at people's records, you see people like, oh, I've only done 200 games. They're still a new player, but you're taking an hour again, that's 200 hours you've plowed into a game. That is not an insignificant amount of time, but you are still classed as nearly new.
Yeah.
And
I
so
don't see that, Collie, because then I have to think about how many hours I've spent playing dodgeball.
I
a lot of
bet
hours.
you
Be
wanna
proud
look
of
on Steam
it.
to see how many hours. Let's have a
It's a
look.
badge of honor.
If you look on Steam, it'll tell you. I've
Yep,
played
true, Santa.
288.2 hours in Blood Bowl 2, which is probably nothing compared to a lot of other people.
I think I am in the thousands, which is a bit crazy when you think about it.
My actual top game for how many hours I've played is probably Warframe, which is 1,065.7 hours, and that is I've done practically everything in Warframe. But people have done 1,000 hours in Blood Bowl, and you are still not considered to be like one of the best. It's incredible.
And yet, so is there something to be done? Because again, goal is we don't want the community to die, we don't want people to be scared away, and there's always complaints that it takes too long to spin because nobody wants to play. Is there a way to make it slightly friendlier? Like other than there's some noob leagues which are pretty good, and I mean I say noob incredibly non-disparagingly, but I still think I'm a noob. So like Rebel has a college league which is pretty good. Are there any other how to start with less pain tips and tricks?
I think OCC's got a good newbie league.
Someone's put in chat about it's incredibly watchable and a lot is learned by not playing, and I agree, like watching people play is always a good thing because you can pick up there's only so much you can pick up by watching, but at the same time there's a lot you can learn very quickly through watching.
That's true.
And I think the danger with new player leagues is it's very hard to determine who is a new player. Like you say, 200 hours is a considerable amount of time, and different people learn at different rates. So somebody there's the one person who's played 200 hours can be like really, really good and really pro level Blood Bowl player, and somebody else who plays 200 hours and still not be very confident in Blood Bowl. So it, you know, looking at how many hours you've put into the game doesn't really tell you a huge amount, because it's like in school, everybody learns at different rates. There's no like
you've also got the risk there. It's just because someone's only got like 5 games on Blood Bowl 2 doesn't mean that they haven't spent the last 20 years playing tabletop.
That's exactly the same thing. So I think new player leagues are helpful to an extent, but I think, you know, it's really difficult to know like what the solution necessarily is to supporting new players. But I think someone's mentioned earlier that there weren't really there's not really a huge amount of like guides on ways to build teams and ways to build players. So I think more things like that would be quite useful in like what skills do and how they affect the game, and just like an actual visual representation or like some videos of like what they do, just to kind of go through how they affect your gameplay, because you know once you know what that skill does, reading it can sometimes not quite tell you exactly what you need to know. So actually having it in the game and going, okay, this is how it's going to work, I think things like that would probably be quite useful. So yeah, I think there's a variety of different ways to kind of like support new players, but like the online league, like Champs Ladder and the Open Ladder are they're difficult, because Champs Ladder is not necessarily new player friendly. Like you've got a very limited amount of time to think. I don't like the 2 minutes. I do not like it at all. But then you go into Open Ladder because you think, okay, maybe it'll be better here, and people just concede on you in 2 turns because one thing didn't go right. And so it's like you can't win. You either get no game at all because they don't want to play, they don't want things to go wrong for them, or you get people who can, you know, you can get a game but it can be very stressful, and you can sometimes run into toxic people, and like there's just problems in both. And if there was a way to kind of like, you know, have it be a bit better, it would be great. But yeah,
Cameraman raises an interesting point, saying reduces the importance of winning, but I mean, this is a football game. It's not like it's not like in Call of Duty, which is one of the examples, or Fortnite, which is another one of your examples, where there's other things to do, but it's a football game. Kind of the idea is literally to win.
My dad
And to beat the shit out of the other team.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fine, it's blood, but I think you can't really reduce the importance of winning in a game of football.
I'd say they have reduced the rate of winning, because my dad was telling me that the original I can't remember which version of Blood Bowl he had, but he had, I think it was like season 2 of Blood Bowl when in the 80s. But basically, when they played it, the game ended when someone hit 3 touchdowns. So it wasn't timed. There weren't 8 turns a half. It was when you hit 3 touchdowns, and it's like, that could be hours. That could be so long. Like, so
you better like your opponent, because you're spending a lot of time with them.
So in some aspects, they have toned down the importance of winning, because they've given you, okay, you've got 8 turns a half to do this. Ancient rules. I mean, that's my dad. I was talking to my dad about Blood Bowl, and so yeah, he used to have an older version of it, and I was shocked when I found out that it was like 3-0, that there were 3 touchdowns that they had to get. So yeah, it depends what you're playing for as well, I think. And I think that's what you have to kind of get across to newer players is why you're playing. And I think online that can be quite tricky, because online there's a bit of a disassociation, and I think that's true of a lot of video games. You get dissociated with what's happening, and you want to win. But when you turn it into the tabletop game, it becomes a silly game of rolling dice and playing with miniatures. Like, it's a whole different atmosphere. You don't have the person in front of you with Blood Bowl 2. You've got the chat, but you can turn that off, or and so like you've kind of got to get that across somehow, and it's just so difficult to do that. So yeah, I feel like there's no right answer, honestly.
I'm agreeing with Santa there. I always found it a lot easier to play a tabletop game than I do to play on Blood Bowl 2, because I've got the person in front of me. People aren't going to be shouting, "Whoa, nice blitz! Where'd you get it from? The shit blitz shop."
That would be kind of interesting.
And well, no, it's kind of something I would say if I knew the person. But it's just, it is more about having fun. Having that person in front of you, where you don't have a keyboard to hide behind, it's definitely better. Yeah, Discord and video chat and Twitch and things like that, it's completely changed the face of online gaming. Like, how many times have we come across people playing a game and then a streamer will run into them and we're like, oh, this guy is a bit toxic, and like, oh, well, he's nice enough to me.
This is the thing though, like, I would never have played online anywhere near as much as I have without discovering Twitch, because like, I didn't find the online games that rewarding when it was just me in my room, like, playing a game. Like, I wanted to have people to talk to, because that's how I learned it, through tabletop. Having said that, I think it's really interesting, like, the sort of way that I play online, I think, is quite different to how I play in person. Because in person, I really think I am just like first priority, same as Santa. Like, you're going there to have like a nice time and chat with someone, and same as Widgeon, like, and have a giggle. Whereas when I play online, I think I have got, for me, it's never been like as much about sort of, oh, I've got to beat the person in front of me, but I've got like quite sort of motivated online by like trying to be good. Do you know what I mean? Like, not beating someone else, but like, am I making the right decisions? It's become like a puzzle for me. Like, I want to be able to like be as good at solving that puzzle as I can. And that's
while having a beer, apparently, because that seems to be a requirement in a lot of things we've been talking about.
Yeah, well, the student tournament that I told you about earlier, Day actually came with me to the last one I attended, and there were various different categories to this, so there weren't just RPGs, but this year they had a Blood Bowl category, and so Day and his friend Undying King were both playing in the Blood Bowl category, and they were stuck in the bar, and they were, oh, great, we can go have a drink. They closed the bar for the weekend. There was a room of Blood Bowlers and a closed bar. They were not happy.
I was really sad about this when we played at UKTC. They closed the coffee shop really early every time. So I'd be going into the last game and think, I want to grab a coffee for this game. And it'd be shut. I was like, why are you closing? You'd make a fortune.
I was gutted because Techno, Collie's husband, offered very kindly to go and get us drinks and was going to come back with a tea, and I was so ready for a tea, and he came back empty-handed. I was gutted. It was so kind of him to go.
Oh, apparently it broke on
There was a
Sunday.
bar centre, but I was driving, so I couldn't drink.
There was
The
some,
coffee shop broke on Saturday as well, Woodrow. I went on to try and get a coffee for my first game, and they didn't do it, so they just gave me this ticket. I was like, well, come back, it might be working later. So when we got to the second half of my first game, I went back and went and gave me a coffee, and I got one.
I just
I
had
think that might be another sort of additional for the question before about like things you need to know for tabletop. Maybe this is a lesson I need to know for myself. Like, I just need to bring a thermos next time. Just bring a thermos.
Bringing a
tea all
thermos.
day.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, next time we do a tournament and Techno comes, we can send him away with the thermos and go fill that up with tea. Don't come back until you do.
Find it somewhere.
Yeah. I was just think I do actually know of an online sort of community where it felt very welcoming and like tabletop, and that was when, and this was actually the first league I joined, was the Calamitous Casual. You've probably heard me talk about it, but they do. I don't know if anybody in chat has seen this or not, but every Sunday. They do a Brotherhood of Bounce, which is like a match of the day kind of thing, where they go through everybody's teams, they talk about their last game, they talk about the game coming up. And when I started, and the reason I started streaming Blood Bowl, and the reason I was streaming so much Blood Bowl, was because I was casting everybody's games, and I was making like little YouTube videos called Dice of the Week, and I was like getting all the fun plays, and you know, you'd hear all of us in Discord going, yeah, no, like shouting about all the fun things that were happening, and that was really nice because everybody in the community was doing their own little thing. Like several of the guys were doing Brotherhood of Bounce, I was doing Dice of the Week, you had the commissioners, the admins. I know, Jimmy, I know, the Dice of the Week, I can't do it as much anymore because casting at people's games, it requires a lot of streaming other people's games, and people just aren't necessarily that interested in watching other people's games, so it is a shame that I've had to stop doing that as much, but that period was really, really nice because there was, you know, we all were going in and talking to each other while everybody was playing. You had the opponents talking to each other, you had a viewing Discord so that the people who were watching weren't distracting the people who were playing. And it was a really nice little atmosphere, and I haven't seen many other leagues do things like that. I've seen one or two, but nothing quite to say. And like they still do Brotherhood of Bounce, so they've got the next episode tomorrow, and just the things like that. I found when you do that online, it can bring back the humanity and the fun of like you know, playing in person.
I was going to send this as a message, but this is a live podcast. I'm just going to tell everyone I have about 5 minutes till I have to do a check-in for my Storybook Brawl tournament, and then I have 20 minutes till it actually starts. But I'm really sorry because I would prefer to hang out here and do this for the next
one last question from chat then. One last question.
Yeah.
Yes, one last question. Oh, my best friend.
Go on, Jizzy.
Oh, my best friend who likes the game but prefers to play teams that aren't as competitive at low TV. Add to that, he plays rather loose. Combine all that together, he often loses. He gets very upset and often concedes by turn 2 or 3. Any tips to retain him as a player and ultimately improve his experiences? So it depends on the teams that they're playing. And I would say play teams that it doesn't matter if it loses. So one of my comfort teams is Halflings, because Halflings, you're not expected to win. Nobody goes into a game of Halflings and goes, I am definitely going to win this, especially if you're up against like a bash team. You're like, no chance. But you know, you can go in and just, you find what is fun. So you find the fun things. You give yourself a goal. You give yourself something that you want to achieve, whether that is throw a successful throw of a halfling or knock down a player with a halfling, something along those lines. And like, it just changes the way you play. You're not playing to win because you're not expected to win. Halflings have, you know, it's not going to happen. It can happen.
I would agree with Tree. I would say Pick something that's really fun. Pick a goblin team and put all the star players in and hit everything with a chainsaw and start running around with a fanatic and a loony and a doom diver and just have a lot of fun. And I think what you need to do with your friend is set some realistic expectations. That you can't pick, and you say that Nurgle and Blackhawks and expect to go in and win every game, but to kind of quit at turn 2 or 3, realistically, is this a game that they want to be playing?
Do you know what I was thinking as the answer that came into my head for this question was, could you get them to try with you to do a bit of Blood Bowl 7s? Because Blood Bowl 7's games last in total like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whereas full Blood Bowl games on the tabletop can last 3 hours easily, especially if it's just like a chilled out club setting. And I think if you're getting discouraged easily, then being stuck in a long game is probably really discouraging. Whereas if it's a game of 7s, it's going to end much quicker anyway, so you can get them to see to the end more. Plus 7s has no rerolls generally, so there's more chance of things going back their way even if they have a bad start, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's not for this kind of game isn't for everybody. And I think sometimes you might just have to accept that it might not be for them. But what I would want to do with that person is set realistic expectations of what they're doing, go through the teams, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and have a coaching game with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So don't play to be competitive. Let them take the team that they want to take and start talking through their plays with them. Yeah. But yeah, basic objectives. Like, right, let's make the ball safe, or let's surf something.
Always. Well, actually, so that's part of it. So I remember watching. I came to visit when I was in UKTC. I was invited to the Technoflower household, which was amazing, and so was Andy. So at some point, to show me what 7s look like, it was Cauliflower versus Andy Davo, with corn and lizards, I think. I don't remember. The point was, technically Andy won. Technically. But the only thing that at least Cauliflower and I remember mostly was the fact that I think Collie surfed 2 of his players, and the joy of that you surfed 2 of Andy Davo's players is fantastic. Right? So, you know, it depends on what your objective is, right? Your objective is to beat Andy Davo. That's kind of hard. He's kind of good at the game, you know.
He's alright, I guess.
He's alright, yeah. But sometimes. But your objective is to surf the shit out of him and embarrass him? Yeah, that's fun. So, you know...
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Have realistic expectations.
I never went into that game with Andy thinking, I'm going to win this. I went into that game thinking, if I can get just one of those corn players off the pitch, I'll never let it down.
It was fun. Yeah, and now you get to stick in his face every time, which is a goal. It's great.
Exactly.
Right, I think Tree is going to have to head off, so we are going to end
I'm
our...
sorry, I feel like I'm being so close.
Guys, if you've got more questions for us, post them in Dizzy's Discord, and we will answer them in the next recording.
Yes, I have a channel specifically for the podcast, so pop all your questions there. Before we go, Tree, since you are heading off, would you like to shout out a specific streamer? Because we always try and give a streamer a little shout out on here. So is there anybody in particular you would like to shout out for us today?
Oh my goodness, well, all my favourite streamers are right here in this room.
But your second favourite streamers?
Someone who I didn't know streamed until really recently is Glowworm, who we met at UKTC, who I got to meet at the tournament. And
Collie, you got that for me.
is one of the many, many, many lovely people from Squad Chaos, and yeah, definitely worth checking out. Glowworm has absolutely the loveliest approach to Blood Bowl, like Widram, like a lot of that Squad Chaos group. So yeah, definitely go check out Glowworm.
Oh, is that the wrong Twitch channel?
I don't know, because I follow them, but I don't know their handle off by heart, so I don't know if it's...
Or is it Glowworm underscore or something like that? It might be something different. We've linked the wrong Glowworm. Whoops.
I mean, say hello to that Glowworm too, if that's Glowworm.
What?
But...
Oh, it's 707. Thank you, Thor.
Thanks, Thor. Can I do one too?
Yeah, go for it. We'll have two.
Because we are starting up Gnome Bowl on Monday. We're starting to our first matches. So we are have a shout out to Necronome.
Yes, do
We
it.
set all that up and sat there for hours doing those spins with
With
Josh.
me.
And he is, I suppose he's alright. He's alright, I suppose. No, he's a lovely guy. We like Necro, and his beard is just as incredible in real life. But he's not very tall.
Oh shit. I'm not a moderator. Carl, you missed the SO.
Oh no.
I'm doing it. It's fine.
So, go
We're all
and
doing
follow.
it.
Alright.
And make sure to check out the Gnome Bowl games. We're gonna have a great time playing Gnome Bowl.
These links will also all be in the description of the podcast, which I will be trying to get out in a couple of days. But thank you all for joining us. It's been really fun doing this live. We might do it again in the future, I don't know, but as it is, this was a milestone for the charity stream which I did last week. So a big thank you to everybody for helping reach the £860 goal. You did amazing. I love you all. I am going to send us out because I know Tree has got to go, so we will be back probably next month. We'll figure it out. But yes, for now, goodbye.
Among Us.
Oh yes,
okay.
we're doing an Among Us stream at some point, but we will let
At some point, it'll
we
happen.
will let you guys know when that Among Us stream will be.
And I will be streaming soon, as well as for Dizzy being so amazing and raising £160. Think so far it's going to be on the 1st of May. Not decided yet. Someone please help me how to use OES.
Yes, we will keep you guys all up to date with all of that's going on. But for now, thank you for joining us tonight, and I will send. Who am I going to send you to? That is a good question. Seabros or
Seabros is
Dadle?
on.
Thor's on. Who's
Thor.
going
Let's go to Dadle.
Oh, you want to go to Dadle? We'll go to Dadle.
Let's go to Dadle. Because he won his Taurus game last night.
He did.
Oh,
That
he
was
did.
great.
He won. Yeah. So I will send you guys out.
Thanks, Widrum. It is still day
We'll
here.
do a quick shout out for Thor as well.
Yes,
Thor
do a
is
quick.
lovely.
Even hosting us. Oh, nice. Well, we will
thank you.
see you guys later and keep you all guys all up to date with everything that's going on. Stay safe, and if we might see you, some of us might see you at NAFC next weekend. Bye bye.